Rev Patrina White McClure. I am so excited about today's show. We have three powerful women on today. But before I get to introductions, let me remind you that WCEG Network is a 501c3 nonprofit community radio station. So if there is any local information or information that you need, tune in to all networks, WCEG. We have everything that you need. Don't forget to call us if you're looking for somewhere to sow a seed. Call us at 404-490-8646. That is 490-8646 and area code 404, and we will get you connected on the right pathway. And now I want to go ahead and introduce my beautiful guests on today. Very talented, very creditable young ladies. I'm so proud of them. Two of them I'm meeting right now, and one of them I've been seeing on social media. Her name is Lakeisha Knight. Lakeisha, hi, welcome to Church Biz. She is the owner and the CEO of Knight Luxury Group. And she is the mentor of my beloved niece, Gabby Maddox, who has invited Kisha to be a part of the show. And as well, Gabby is CEO and founder of G Maddox Associates. And then Samaiya Hoyle, she is on our show. She's also Gabby's friend who gets into short-term rentals. Welcome, Samaiya. Welcome again, Gabby. I'm so proud to have you all here. Gabby will be on the low today. Her voice is a little bit out, but we're going to get to the heart of the issue. Samaiya, both Samaiya and Lakeisha have experience with short-term rental properties. And so here's the first question about Airbnbs. That's basically what it is. Are there other names that Airbnb goes by, or is that the only platform that's out there for the short-term rental?
I guess I'll start off. Samaiya, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So short-term rentals, Airbnb is one major platform. There's also several others. VRBO is another one that's really popular, specifically with vacation rentals. I primarily list my homes on Airbnb, but also have started to create my own platform for short-term rentals, really just by word of mouth, through social media. A lot of people reach out to me through seeing my reviews and seeing my experience. So they reach out directly. So that's something that I'm diving into now. But Airbnb is a major platform for short-term rentals.
All right. And what is the name of your company?
Oh, I haven't started it yet, but I do. When people reach out to me, I draft contracts, send that over to them just so that, I have everything secured in terms of legal. But yeah, people have been reaching out to me, people that have stayed with me through Airbnb and have heard that their friends have stayed with me and the great experience that I provide. So they'll reach out to me directly to rent out my homes. So that's been a really good experience.
Awesome. So this is for you and Lakeisha. How do we connect with either of you? Let's say I have a property and I'm thinking about going the short-term rental route. What is the first thing I need to consider so that I don't make a mistake?
Well, I would say a couple of things with the Airbnb space. First of all, the laws have changed on short-term rentals in the city of Atlanta. You now have to have a permit in order to do a short-term rental in the city of Atlanta. It's $150 for the year, and it allows you to have two short-term rental spaces underneath that permit. So definitely you want to make sure you have your permits and are doing and operating as a legal Airbnb. You don't want to get shut down. If you own the place, then it should be nothing past the permit that you have to get. But let's say if you're renting an apartment, some people are diving into the world of rental arbitrage, which is where they have a agreement with the apartment complex or whatnot that allows them to do corporate leasing or short-term rentals. Not a lot of complexes allow it, but those that do, people have agreements worked out. So you want to make sure you have your agreements and licensures in place before you start operating a short-term rental. That's just for City of Atlanta. Other cities have not followed suit as of yet that I know of. I have Airbnbs in Decatur and in Atlanta. Decatur doesn't require that, but of course Atlanta does.
And is that because of all of the horror stories we've been hearing?
I'm sure it has a lot to do with it, especially the party houses in Buckhead, neighbors complaining about unruly guests staying and, defacing and tearing up property and just, acting out of conduct. So I'm sure that played a major role in it these days. And of course, the city is always looking to make money, of course, as well. So if they can get a piece of the pie, then they want a piece of the pie.
Bottom line, just be legal.
And to add a little bit to that, I think a lot of cities, Lakeisha, to your point, are experiencing sort of a housing crisis. People are buying homes just for the purpose of investments. So people that actually want to live and move into these homes are having a hard time finding a place to rent out. So Airbnb is, I guess, trying to regulate some of that too.
Definitely. But I think that's going to be a statewide thing that the government needs to step in and regulate some of the investors coming in. I mean, we are coming into a housing crisis, but that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Samaiya, when you start your business, are you looking to own properties outside of the state of Georgia, or are you limited to the one state?
No, I'm not limited at all. I actually got into the short-term rental space unknowingly, so to speak. I had met Gabby through one of my coworkers who had bought a home in the same community I bought one in. I'm from California, so I would go home a lot, especially through the pandemic. One of my friends was like, why don't you just Airbnb your place out instead of paying the mortgage and you're not there? And I was like, yeah, I never thought of that. And I did, and I found it to be extremely profitable. I don't live at that home anymore. I live in an apartment, and then ended up through Airbnb. I was able to get the funds to buy another home through Gabby, I do Airbnb at that home too. So started off as unknowing, but now it's kind of what I do. A lot of people reach out to me for advice, and I always send them to Gabby. I'm not a realtor by trade. But I do have a lot of experience in short-term rentals, setting up your space, how to get furniture for the low, and just build out your Airbnb with not a lot of money. So yeah, that's part of my expertise.
Hey, Samaiya,
Okay.
if you don't mind me asking, when it comes to profitability, what does that look like for you, if you don't mind? Like, where was your mortgage and what was your highest peak month financially?
Yeah, so my mortgage is $1,200 something. This is at my first house. When I was doing Airbnb now that I'm doing Airbnb full time, I see about 4 times the profit. Lately, I've been getting a lot of people that want to rent out my home for reality shows, interestingly enough. So there's a lot of people that have been reaching out for different shows on OWN Network and Tyler Perry series that I've been getting. So I get like month stays. Someone is there now for 3 months. Which is really, really good. And I charge them the nightly rate plus a little bit of a discount, just for the luxury of them coming into a fully furnished home that's in a really good community. So yeah, my peak months is like 4 to 5 times my mortgage. The winter, I did see a little bit of a decline. I realized that people weren't leaving their cold states to come to Atlanta and sit in the cold. Atlanta is one of those places people come to, birthdays, baby showers, all types of things, but they love the warm weather. So over the winter, I did see a little bit of a decline, still profitable, but not at that peak. But now that summer's here, I'm seeing a raise in that. So really, really happy with the profitability that I'm seeing.
That is so encouraging. Okay. All right. Let me put that on my list of to-dos. But
Auntie, I wanted to add too, if you didn't mind, Kisha, what was your Airbnb experience like? Because with your basement, I thought that was really unique. Another form of income. Can you talk to us about that? Because Ms. Patrina doesn't know about that. So I want to add that in there.
Sure. I purchased my house, finished the basement. My mortgage is around $12.95 a month. The basement was making upwards of $3,000 a month, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, no kitchen, no laundry, just bedrooms. And I'm 5 minutes away from Tyler Perry Studios, so I got a number of people filming. Traveling nurses, a lot came and stayed with me for like 2 and 3 months at a time. So it was a really great experience, and it allowed me to want a house and pay a mortgage without paying the mortgage. And I had excess money. Then my second property over in Decatur that I'm running, that house mortgage is about $830 a month, and the house makes about $5,000 a month, give or take.
Wow, very lucrative, I see. Now, how much is starter cash looking like? Because I know, Samaiya, you said something about you don't have to have a lot of money. So to give hope to the WCEG listeners, what kind of numbers are we looking for?
I think that all depends on the size of your home, and kind of what experience that you want to provide. I think when I first started, I'd lived in the home, so it was decorated as if I lived there. I ended up moving everything that I really cared about, since there were other people in my home, to my garage, locking my garage up just so that no one was meddling in my personal items. But I'd say for the second home that I purchased through Gabby, I was able to furnish it for about $5,000 to $6,000. Just using Facebook Marketplace and just other things like that, Wayfair, Amazon, just to at a low cost to make it a really good experience for the people. So I think something that my guests always compliment me on is just really nice touches and fixes, providing them things like a coffee maker makes a world of a difference, or I have a lot of backyard space. I have a barbecue grill out there, just to show them it can be your home away from home. I want to provide that experience for all of my guests. So again, I think it depends on the size of your home and kind of the experience that you want to provide. Coffee maker and there's some fixes that aren't necessary, but they definitely add value and make people want to stay at your home.
Okay, so everybody needs to go to G Maddox and Associates, purchase property, as well as Knight Luxury Group, and then connect with you, Samaiya, to know how to maneuver the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other things aside from just the furniture that kind of build out your profile and make people want to stay with you. Airbnb has sort of like an about me page so you can share with your guests a little bit about who you are and what you do, where you live, things like that. So just connecting with the individuals that end up booking with you is really important to me. Make it sort of a community in a sense.
And I'll add to that as well. What has been really successful for me is just making sure my cleaning crew is really tight. That's why I have like so many positive reviews, and also providing experiences too. I have cooked dinner for Airbnb guests before. I've taken them like on tours if it's someone I feel comfortable with, and that's stuff they pay extra for. So they really appreciate the full Atlanta experience, especially my long-term stay guests.
Wow, that is interesting, because I would have never thought, let me take them on a tour. Let me show them what's here. I would have been like, they'll figure it out.
Well, I actually picked this note up. I stay in Airbnbs around the world when I travel. And one of my travel experiences was to South Africa. And the host prepared a traditional South African dinner for us, took us on tours of the market, and just made Africa a really great experience. So it's something I wanted to add and provide for my guests as well.
All right. Thank you for that. That we learn from each other. And one of the things I want to bring out is how supportive you all of each other. You're not like cutthroat. I'm not going to help them because of whatever reason. You are very, very supportive. And I know that God blesses you all uniquely for that gift, if you will. Moving forward, we have all these major corporations, because one of you alluded to the corporations that are coming in to rent the Airbnbs. How does that impact the market to that degree? Like if I come in as Joe Blow off the street trying to rent, how you know, are the better properties taken by the major corps because they have the money to rent them?
Oh, definitely. Instead of terms of them renting, these major corporations, which are a lot of hedge funds, own the properties. So they are getting first dibs when it comes to, you know, the creme de la creme of property, you know. So a lot of, like you said, Joe Blows like you and I just don't come in and get these opportunities because a lot of them are purchasing cash, which knocks a lot of people out of the market. So it's a bit more competitive right now. When I got into the Airbnb space about 3 years ago, the market was a little less competitive than it is now. But things have definitely changed.
Okay. And that was the main reason for the show today, because Gabby spoke up when she was here 2 months ago about how if we small investors could come together and begin to purchase properties, we can experience some of the same things. So how do we, or what would you recommend, shall I say, what should that conversation sound like if I want to pick some friends out who I think would be interested?
Question directly to me.
Or either of you.
I would say start an investment group. Some of me and my friends have talked about it. Start an investment group, pull your money together, start an LLC, and buy homes in the name of the LLC. And there are all kind of products available that if you start an investment group that you guys would have access to, like Hard Money now does long-term rentals. I have lenders that do what's called the Airbnb loan. So it's specifically for investors that are looking to purchase short-term rentals. So there are a lot of resources out here.
Awesome, awesome. We got a question in that says, what does the cleaning process look like? Has anyone ever messed up or destroyed either of your properties?
I can start with that. I think something that is super important to me at first with my Airbnbs, I was cleaning them myself just to get a feel of kind of who these people were in my home. I realized that was a large effort. So I immediately got a cleaning company, somebody that I trust. I mentioned I travel a lot for work and for personal life. So it was really important to me to have people in there that I trust. I could speak to their quality of work, and I made sure that, you know, they weren't messing up my reviews, so to speak. Because, you know, if someone goes into an Airbnb and the sheets are dirty, they're not going to say, hey, that cleaning company, they were so bad. They're going to say, Samaiya, your home was dirty. We don't want to stay there. Luckily, I've never had that experience. But I have seen people's reviews and they kind of blame their cleaning companies for things. But I like to do that quality assurance with my company. I've been working with them for around 3 years and really, really trust them. So to speak to that, I would completely recommend having a cleaning company come and a professional cleaning company come in and service your home through each of the stays. And a little bit about messing up my home. Luckily, I haven't had any major like breakage or anything in my homes. I have had like an attempted party. I have a front doorbell camera, so I was able to stop it before it got too crazy. But yeah, they were like smoking in my house and doing a bunch of stuff that I say explicitly on my description that I don't support. So luckily I was able to stop it, but I have heard some horror stories about people coming in, breaking things, stealing things and things like that. So you want to be really cautious of who you have in your home and make sure you're kind of vetting them once they send those requests and not just accepting everybody.
What about you, Kisha?
Definitely, to piggyback on what she said, I've had people try to have parties like Gabby mentioned. I had an Airbnb going in the basement of my home. So imagine coming home and there's a Lamborghini parked crossways your driveway. And it's a whole bunch of cars down the street. Like, wait a minute, what is going on? So I immediately go down there and get it together. They didn't break a tear up anything. They were smoking hookah and stuff when it clearly states no smoking, but it was something I was able to rectify pretty quickly. Also had the same thing happen at my Decatur property. I have cameras like Samaiya as well, so I can see what's going on. So I immediately called and was like, everybody needs to be out or the police will be called and no refunds will be given. So they got it together quickly.
Awesome, awesome. So, in other words, not all money is good money.
Oh,
It's not. And the importance of vetting people, you spoke a word when you said that. Vet your guests. Ask as many questions as possible to figure out what their intentions is, what their motives is. If they start asking about get-togethers, no, that's an immediate red flag that you're trying to have a party and it will not happen in my Airbnb spaces.
Okay,
yeah.
got you,
I
got you.
agree completely. I think there's other platforms for, like, there's Peerspace and things that people can use to book places for events. So and some Airbnbs are okay with having parties. Mine is not a party house. Neither of them are. So I encourage asking, like Lakeisha was saying, a lot of questions. I usually start with what brings you into town. If it says that they live in Atlanta, I always ask, hey, like, what are you looking to do? Just so that we're very clear about the experience that I provide and making sure that aligns with what they're looking for in their short-term stay. So I ask a lot of questions.
Samaiya, do you allow instant book on yours?
I do. I get instant books, not a whole lot at my price point anymore. But in the beginning, that's when I started to see, I had a lower price point just because I was trying to get a lot of reviews. But as I started to increase my price point and kind of increase my servicing, I haven't had a lot of that.
Okay.
Okay, and that is a service that people can go through to rent, or that you use to vet the renters?
Yeah, so Instant Book is basically an option through Airbnb. They allow people to book without you accepting or rejecting their request. Sometimes it helps for people that, let's say they booked a hotel and, something happened and they're like, oh, I need a place to stay right now, or an emergency came up. A lot of people use the Instant Book feature to do that. I think some people also abuse that feature because as a host, I'm not able to accept or reject their request. So they book it, they're confirmed, and hosts get penalized, so to speak, for canceling. So they know that we can't really go in and cancel once they've already booked and confirmed. So some hosts have that option to instant book, some don't. I currently do, just because I haven't seen like a major problem with that. But I'd love to hear your experience, Lakeisha, if instant book has been positive or negative in your experience.
It's just kind of been a mixed bag, to be honest. All the guests I've ever had, I'm not delighted with. But it is what it is. You run the business. You can't necessarily always pick the people, that stay at your places. But like you said, when I am able to vet, when I don't use the InstaBook feature, then, I get I think a better quality of guests sometimes.
Okay, so if we want to know more about that, we can go to Airbnb.com to look that up.
I encourage people who are looking to get into the short-term rental space to go to Airbnb, set up a profile, look at other Airbnbs in their area, put in their zip code, and just kind of see what the pricing is. It's kind of like a measuring stick, so you can get an idea of what you could charge, what's available in your area, what types of properties, demand this type of price. So just kind of get yourself familiar with the space. And there's so many other platforms. The big, most popular, of course, is Airbnb, but you have VRBO, you have Furnish Finder, you have HotPads, you have so many different platforms to kind of, probe through.
Awesome, awesome. And that, again, I'm so grateful that you're here. It opens up our mindsets, those of us listening in, to see that we don't have to do illegal activity, if you will, in order to survive, and people don't know that. So you're giving them a viable option that you can be legit and still get the same desired results. So now, Samaiya, are you going to add a similar feature on your platform once you started, like an Instabook or some type of vetting profile once you create yours?
I'm still in the research phase of it, but really, I think that the instant book is just an option for people that maybe in a rut. they're like, let me find something, I need something now, they find a home. I think that, to speak again to the vetting process, there's a list of questions that I think everyone should have. Think about what's important to you and the experience that you want to provide, and write out a list, I'd say, of 3 to 5 questions, asking your guest, tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you coming with kids? Because there's a lot of things that come with that. I think my home is pretty big, and I get a lot of kids, which is good and bad. Kids like to touch things. Kids have things on their hands. They like to rub on the walls. So I don't say no kids, and I do like the experience that I'm able to provide for families. But I do also stress that, if there's any extra cleaning that needs to happen because of breakage or spills or things like that, that all of those costs will be kind of passed on to the guests. So I'm very clear about that as well.
Awesome. I understand. Now, are there special insurances for Airbnb rentals?
So Airbnb provides a $1 million insurance policy. I have homeowners insurance, but also Airbnb, let's say your house were to burn down, somebody's using your barbecue grill and they set it on fire. Airbnb will cover you up to $1 million. They also, if there's like breaks, let's say somebody comes in and they break your TV or something like that, you can submit a claim through Airbnb. It does take a little bit of time. And Airbnb, I'd say it does a good job of, confirming the issues that are happening on the guest side and the host side. I think that kind of alleviates hosts taking advantage of the system. Let's say you're a host and you just, God forbid, want some extra money or something like that. And you say, hey, this person broke my TV, but they really didn't. Airbnb requires that we take lots of pictures. We have people come out to give us estimates to show kind of what the issue is, how much it actually cost, and things like that. So I think the insurance policy is really good. I'm glad that it's there, but sometimes they make you jump through hoops, I'd say, as a host, to get your money back for things that guests may break, big or small. So that's been my experience.
What about you, Kisha?
Pretty much the same for me as well. I've had to file a claim twice from things that were taken out of the house. Small things, nothing huge, but people do walk away with, like the TV remote, something simple, something silly. Or if they see something they really like that was a decorative piece and they just took it with them. So I have had to do claims for that before, but Airbnb definitely made me go through the channels of taking photos and proving that, I actually purchased this item. So now in my Airbnbs, I have an itemized list and I keep the receipts as well. So I know exactly, where I got this from, how much I paid for it. And I do a good job of taking photos or whatnot of the space as well.
So it's like a regular homeowner's insurance policy, in other words.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rental insurance coverage that Airbnb gives you when you're a host.
Okay, cool. All right. Another question in the chat is, how would you get the real on an out-of-state Airbnb?
How would you get the real, meaning like what's really going on?
The real story. Is the property like they put on Facebook, and then you get there, then you're disappointed because it does not match whatsoever. So
well, it's very important that you read thoroughly the details. A lot of people glaze over the Airbnb details. Like I'll tell you, for example, I have a guest that's staying a month at my Decatur property. It's a basement apartment, one area of it, and it says kitchenette. Now, we all know kitchenettes to be microwave, refrigerator, maybe a hot plate, air fryer, something of that nature. And I list it in the Airbnb. It's listed, everything that's there. And the guy calls me and says, well, you don't have a stove here. I said, correct. He's like, well, I have to have a stove. And I was like, sorry, sir, there is no stove here. It says specifically in the description that a kitchenette is available, and the items that are available to cook with are listed there as well. So nothing I can do at this point. So I would say people just need to read the reviews of the guests who stayed there, read the description in detail of the property and what's available.
Are there a lot of fake interviews as a result of their disappointment because they didn't read?
I don't have a lot of negative reviews at all. I have over 125 reviews, and it's very few that's been negative.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You were getting ready to say something, Samaiya?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's funny that you say that because guests will, I haven't had this experience, but I've heard from just people that I know that they'll say, oh, this doesn't look as pictured. And I'm like, the pictures are there. You know, I think people, they look at the price, they're like, ooh, this looks good, I want to do it. But to your point, Lakeisha, like you have the pictures, you have the description, it's all there for them to see. And then they get there and have a little bit of amnesia, I'd say. They're like, wait, where's the stove? It's like, you didn't see the stove in the picture, it's not there.
I think that's Patrina complex a little bit too. It's like you get there and then you start looking at other Airbnbs. You're like, well, this one is better, or I found this for a cheaper price. And it's like, nobody, you already booked, you locked up my days, you gonna stay and pay. It is what it is. And if you leave, you're not getting your money back. So do as you please.
I know that's in there. It's like you need to know up front before you make a sudden decision, you're not getting your money back.
I need all my coins. And if I provided what I said I was going to provide, then you need to provide my money. This is a business.
Yeah. And I think Airbnb, it's a platform where you put your own pictures, you write your own description. It's extremely customizable. So there are people that provide, you know, if you cancel 24 hours before your stay, you can get a full refund. That's just not what I do. So I encourage guests, once you're looking for an Airbnb, to make sure that it aligns with kind of, you know, what you want from your experience. And I keep going back to this. If you're not completely sure about your trip, and it's a last minute thing, my stay, once you book, you know, it's a very strict refund policy, but there are people that don't mind, you know, giving your money back 24 hours before. For me, like Lakeisha said, it's a business for me. I don't live at these homes. So I have a strict refund policy just to make sure that I'm allotting my profit as it is. I have bills to pay and things like that, and want to make sure that I provide the best experience to my guests. And it's hard to do that once people are able to cancel and adjust their stays, you know, minutes before. I pay for the cleaning company and things like that too, which comes through the guest. But I just want to make sure that, you know, our time and effort isn't wasted in providing your experience. So.
Now, when you have a property that you are considering putting on the market in this manner, are there any type of zoning laws or local laws besides buying a license to do that you need to comply with?
Not as of yet.
I will add to that part, Auntie, that you do want to be careful of rental restrictions. And I tell any of my clients that, including Samaiya, like, hey, you need to make sure this HOA does allow you to have a short-term rental, because a lot of subdivisions will allow you to have long-term rentals, but they will not. And even with long-term rentals, they'll say it's a 25% cap in the neighborhood, or you'll have to be on the waiting list. But a lot of residential neighborhoods do not allow Airbnb in the covenants and restrictions of the community.
And to add to that, that's why I personally specifically only purchase homes that are outside of HOAs for that very reason, because I don't want to have those restrictions when I'm trying to make money from my property. So yes.
That makes sense.
Lakeisha touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think if you're using an apartment to do Airbnb, be very, very careful about their rules and regulations. If they allow short-term rentals, I know someone actually in the apartment that I lived in that got evicted because there's a very strict, in our leasing contract, very strict rules that say no short-term rental, no Airbnb, no whatever it is, we don't allow it. I think people think that they can kind of get away from that and slide between the rules, but apartments are very, very serious and they will kick you out. So make sure that you know the rules and restrictions, whether it's HOA or your apartment leasing contract, if you're able to do Airbnb, because it's really not worth getting evicted or, having to go through legal issues to make extra money. So make sure you're doing it legally and safely.
And the last thing you want is an eviction on your credit, because it's not going to fare well when you have an eviction on your credit and you're, trying to use your credit for things like purchasing a home, like you're, doing it the way you're supposed to do it. So definitely what Samaiya said, don't play around with that. It's not worth it.
Amazing. Things we don't think about. We think we can just rent a spot, then put it out there, make some quick money. And because my name is on the lease, but there are other things like read the lease to see what it says in order to know your boundaries. Because wherever you go, you have to answer to somebody. You know, there's no such thing as it's mine, but there are still rules, there are still laws, there are still fees that you have to pay. Another question, if people are ready to vacay, how do they get the referrals? You know, like how do they, you know, where do they, how are they referred to you, shall I say? How are there, is there a process where if I'm coming to you, someone is referring me to stay in your place, or do I just go to the applicable sites and you know, pay my fees or what have you?
I can speak to that. It's sort of like a mixed bag for me. I've been doing Airbnb for a lot of years. So as Lakeisha mentioned, I have a lot of good reviews. So a lot of people want to stay at my homes. I have a lot of repeat offenders, people that come for work and they're like, my homes are by the airport. So they're like, this is the only place I want to stay in. It's super close, super convenient, things like that. So they've shared my name and passed it along to other friends. Depending how comfortable I am with the person, if it's a family friend or someone that you know, knows someone that I know, I do contracts on the side outside of Airbnb. I don't do that for strangers just because of the insurance that Airbnb is able to provide. If you're a stranger and you're living in my home, I don't want you to be able to stay here for 30 days and say, hey, I'm not leaving. And Airbnb protects you against some of those things. So I'm very careful about who I kind of take on the side, so to speak, just to protect myself, protect my home, protect my investments and things like that. So I do through word of mouth. Sometimes I'll say, hey, yes, I do short-term rentals. Here's my Airbnb link if I don't really know you. But for others, I do create my own contracts and allow them to stay through my homes through those protective rights.
All of mine is strictly through Airbnb. I post and promote on my social media pages, but I always post and promote my Airbnb link on those social media pages. So I'll have friends or colleagues call me and ask me for my Airbnb links. They can send it to so that they can send it to their friends and family. But I try to be as safe as possible and do everything through Airbnb just to protect myself.
Awesome, awesome. So we got location, location, location. We have the laws, you know, knowing what is within your scope of abilities to venture out into this particular market. Then either you're the owner of the household or you can rent and then lease.
Rental
Okay.
arbitrage.
You said rental what?
It's called rental arbitrage.
Okay.
When you're renting out an apartment, let's say for corporate leases, short-term leases, it's called rental arbitrage.
Okay, you did mention that word earlier. I'm crash coursing it. So
I know it's a lot of information.
And Auntie, to add to what you were saying about location, 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 I think that's something that's very important because people think like in Atlanta to do an Airbnb, you need to be somewhere like Buckhead in this mansion. But what we found is if you're next to a hospital, the airport, a college, or big attractions such as even Six Flags, you get a lot of bookings. And those are areas typically where you don't have to pay a ton of money for a home. So I think that's something to mention too. Like my clients who buy around the airport tend to make the most money, or like Kisha Decatur by Emory or by hospitals, really, really popular as well. So location is important, but it doesn't have to be the most expensive location.
Yeah, and you can really build a whole big business off of just focusing on the hospital space. Traveling nurses, guys, are getting paid 10 to 13 grand a week. So they need a place to stay, like Paulding County, Douglasville, like they have major hospitals out there and they don't have enough Airbnbs out there to accommodate all of the traveling nurses. So I got that tidbit from a client that's a doctor at the Wellstar out there. So definitely cater to the hospital and nursing industry.
Wow. That's why you're here, to help us see the potential. Like God told Moses, what is in your hand? In other words, work what you have. And we already might have it in our hands that we can work and get our little piece of the market. Awesome, awesome. Now, how do we get in touch with you all if you want to buy property? If you're interested in getting into the short-term rental market, how do we get in touch with each of you? Samaiya?
Yeah, so I have an advisory, a consultative service. My company is called Key Home Solutions. So what I do is if you're considering Airbnb or any short-term rental type situation, you can reach out to me. I'll help you take a look at what's in the area, kind of help you determine your price point. We even go as far as helping you write your description and sell your home. I have photographers that'll come out and help you take your pictures and things like that. So that's a service that we provide. So if you want to reach out, I will send you my email. Miss Patrina, and I don't know who else is, or how we can get that out, but my email is samaiya.hoyle@gmail.com. My name is spelled SAMAIYA.HOYLE@gmail.com, and I'll send that over to my team. If you have any questions after you already have your home about setting up your short-term rental, I'm your girl, so just let me know.
All right, Kisha?
As for me, you can reach me on all social media platforms. On Instagram, I am 404 Realtor. On Facebook, I am Kisha, that's Kisha Knight. LinkedIn, it's Lakeisha Knight, MBA. So you can find me any of those places, and you can always call me. My contact information is on all of those platforms.
Awesome. Gabby?
Yes. So on Instagram, I'm Gabby Maddox, Gabby Maddox Davis. I just got married. And then on Facebook, the same thing, Gabby Maddox Davis. And also you can go directly to my website and book a free consult at Gabby Maddox. And Kisha and Samaiya are experts in short-term rentals. I tell them all the time, it takes a patient human being to do short-term rentals. I am a long-term rental expert. I do not do short-term rental.
Like that money is double, like it's triple.
I don't want anybody calling me saying something happened to my house. I want somebody there for the whole year. I just want the check.
Wow, awesome. All right, and we're getting another message here. If you can go ahead through the chats, everyone, to put your contact information to our owner, our CEO, the lovely evangelist Penny Rogers, and she'll post your contact information on WCEG platforms, all WCEG Network social media, so that the listeners can get in touch with you. I am sure someone is inspired to consider this as an option of going into the industry, because we see everybody selling property. This site is for sale. This so much acreage is up for grabs. All you have to do is have the money, but so many people feel like I can't do it. That must be for those who have all of these thousands of dollars, when there are different ways to achieve the same dream. And so I thank you for shining light, giving the insight that you have to help us to understand that we can do this. So Gabby, if you see our property over here going up on Airbnb, then but anyway. But I want to encourage everybody that's listening, don't lose hope in whatever it is you're trying to do. As long as there is breath in your body, you can pursue this with the right team. So basically, all these ladies are saying, do your research. You have to do the homework. If you don't, it's going to bite you in the end. And so you have to be open to new ideas. People who don't grow, who don't see what they can do, they typically close off ideas or new trains of thoughts and experiences. And then they become frustrated with their lives because they're bored. It's because you're not doing anything with what is in your hand. There is potential in your life. There is potential in you and in those things that you own. You have a sphere of influence and you can make moves. You can have dreams and pursue them. And I love how you all just started doing this. What led you to get into the market, Samaiya?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm from California. So I believe it was the end of 2018. I was going home for like 3 months through the holidays. One of my friends was like, why don't you do Airbnb while you're gone? I'm like, I don't want anybody in my house. Like, that's weird. I don't want people using my stuff. And she's like, no, you should really do it. It's profitable. So I tried it. My first guest ever was Thanksgiving on 2018. In 2018. They came, I saw that money come through the next day after their check-in, and I was like, I could get used to this. So ever since then, I just started thinking through how I can increase my experiences that I provide to the guest. I learned something with every guest. Every single time I learned something, how to be better, what not to do, what to do more of. So it's really an everlasting learning experience, I'd say. But once you kind of get your groove, then it's smooth sailing from there.
Very true. For me, it was driven by a passion to pay off my basement renovation. I did a lot of renovations in my house. When I bought it, it was a shell of a house. And so I finished my basement and I said, this basement is going to pay for itself. So I had a number in mind that I wanted to make. And I was like, the basement's going to pay for it. And it indeed has definitely paid for itself.
And for me, my long-term rental, it started with my childhood house. I always love to listen to Kanye West talk about his childhood house, and he went back and purchased it. So my grandfather had passed away, and my mom was interested in selling her house to go move in with my grandma temporarily. And I was like, oh no, like you're gonna get rid of like the house I grew up in. And I was like, can I buy it? And my mom was like, you gonna pay me market value? I was like, I'll buy it, And I paid her market value at the time. It's gone up so much. She thinks I scammed her at this point, but I did. You know your sister. But it's basically paid for my son to go to private school since he was born. And it's creating generational wealth. And when he turns 18, I plan on selling it and telling him, hey, this will be a start for you to not have to live a life in debt. It's gone up so much and I've never paid a mortgage on it. So it was a true blessing from my mom that'll be passed on to my kid too.
Awesome, awesome. And we have to think long-term instead of living just in the moment. And some of us older generations, we didn't always get that message, but you younger generations have picked up on that. And I love how you're communicating that with others that you come in contact with. Gabby will be doing it with Zane. So this is really, really awesome. And I hope the people in my age group will continue to revise how they think about legacy. And so, and also creative ways to finance or invest. It's doable. No one should be complaining. If people are complaining, that is because they are living the lives that they worked for or didn't. So we have to. So we have to keep that in mind, And I think it was Samaiya, you said you had to stay teachable. In other words, this is an everlasting learning moment. We don't ever just really arrive. We just develop, we grow, we get better. You know, if you stop growing or stop learning, you're the walking dead. And so we have to be mindful of that. We are responsible for the information that comes in and how we appropriate that. And each of you in your own professions have done that successfully. And there are hiccups in every industry, every job. So we can't go in thinking it doesn't matter what it is. Even if you make a right decision, every right decision has some bad to come with it. This is just a reality, but it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing for you. It just means you have to work through the good and the bad to find your niche. Okay, we have 10 minutes left. We're looking for closing remarks from each of you. Gabby?
As I say all the time, as I say all the time, and I hope anybody gets from this, and why I wanted to come back on here with what a blessing it was that I was hoarse to be able to have Kisha come on and support me. Thank you. And thank you so much, Samaiya, as well. They've taught me so much when it comes to Airbnb. Like Samaiya just purchased her last home probably about 3 months ago, completely renovated it. And I've been enjoying seeing that process. 90% of the world's millionaires became so through real estate. So if there's anything we can do to push knowledge into our community, we have to stop scaring people away from buying and purchasing. We have to create wealth and create it for generation after generation for our families. So if there's anything we can ever do to support or put out knowledge for anybody, I mean, what Samaiya and Kisha have done with Airbnb is simply amazing. Amazing. They didn't talk about their profits, but I know their profits. Samaiya went from her house to the most expensive building in Buckhead. So let me be clear, like they are making huge profits from their Airbnb. So what a blessing. And if there's anything we can do, thank you guys for welcoming us to talk about this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, to piggy off of Gabby, I think it's so important to have a community of people that you can learn and grow from. Like I said, I met Gabby through one of my coworkers. She's like, girl, I just bought a house. That inspired me. I think iron sharpens iron. And it's really nice to have a community as a young Black woman, seeing people like Gabby and even Lakeisha. I haven't had a chance to really talk to you yet, but hope to keep in contact just to sharpen each other, learning things like, you know, what to do, what to say to these guests and sharing that information, passing it along. I don't see this as a competition at all. It's just, how can I help? Where can I plug in? Here's what I'm doing. Here's what you should do. Here's what you shouldn't. Or, you know, just being an open book with my experience, I think is so important to me. So thank you for having me on this platform. I hope to connect with you all again. I love talking about Airbnb and the opportunities it's provided me. It's really been a life changer. So hoping to help and inspire anybody that's on this call that's looking to have a similar experience.
And I, like Samaiya, just love Gabby, and I have definitely done so much. We've taught and did coaching trainings together. We're always trying to educate, you know, our people, to enlighten them and to elevate them. I will say this, just get a piece of the pie. Whatever your piece looks like, if it's a start with a condo, a townhome, whatever your thing is, just get something to start investing in real estate. Like somebody said, real estate is a game changer. Real estate changed my life. I mean, after working in corporate, having an MBA and, you know, having a lot of experience in marketing, TV, radio, and all these things, it still wouldn't never have put me where I am now financially, and just feeling happy to be in the space. I love what I do and what I'm able to provide. So, you know, anything I could do to share with you and help you get to the next level. I never look at anyone as competition. It's almost 7 billion people in Atlanta metro area. I can't help everybody. So let's spread the love. So Gabby, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on and host this and be interviewed alongside of you. This was an absolute honor. So I appreciate you guys.
And I thank you all for being a part of today's show. I do have a question. This question was posed to me earlier. I think we all will know which property I'm speaking of. When we're talking about investing properties and the hedge funders and all of that, and they didn't know anything about the show. They just happened to ask me, what do you think? Which is, there's a property out on what we used to call on Bankhead Highway. They started building, looks like it's going up, but for about 2 months now, there's no movement on it. Is it a possibility that either the investors didn't count up all the costs and ran out, or is it possible that the hedge funders knew that they didn't have enough to finish the project and might swoon in, take up the project, and then, we have another one of those things where the typical Joe Blow won't be able to afford to live there, thus raising taxes and the current residents in the 318. I know you know where I'm talking about, Gabby. Is that a possibility that that's what's going on and we have to be mindful?
I can actually tell you what I think it is. And Kisha knows about this. I had a client who purchased in that area probably about 6 months ago, 6 months to a year ago. This is actually in the AJC. They have put a lot of stop work orders, depending upon how they received the permits to build over there, because they put a stop order on a lot of tear downs and rebuilds because the property taxes, the city actually put a stop work order on certain zip codes until they can figure out the property tax issue. So unless you were a current owner and you were trying to renovate your house, if you were a new construction builder trying to build in that area, to be honest, a lot of them were not getting permits. So it sounds like that might have been the issue, to be honest with you. But I don't know for certain. But I know that I dealt with it with a client where you're not supposed to be rebuilding, especially by the quarry, because they're trying to figure out the tax situation to make sure it's fair for everybody over there.
Awesome. See, that's why you're here, to answer questions. So I can relay that information if that individual is not watching, and we have 3 more minutes. So that's the key thing. Before we start building, we have to get all the necessary permits. That's just it. We can't just buy a property because I have money and then this is what I want to put there. And then, so wow, that's interesting. You just start building with no permits. But anyway, as well, we have another comment in the chat. Okay. Global legacy and wealth building. Again, Kisha, you want to address that really, really fast? I know Gabby did already.
What was the question?
It's about your thoughts on global legacy and wealth building for, let's say, the African American community, because we're the ones usually on the down end of the big buildup.
I think generational wealth is very, very important. We can't keep acting like we don't know when the knowledge is there and the outlets are there for you to get the information you need to start investing, to get your credit where it needs to be. Cash is king, but credit is also queen. Like, without good credit, there's not much you can do. So it doesn't matter if you have cash all the time, because you don't always want to tie up your cash into purchasing things outright. You know, there was a time where financing and interest rates were super, super cheap. So why would you spend $100,000 of your cash when you could just do a nice down payment of, let's say, 20% and house some of that cash so that you can obtain other houses or obtain and do other projects? So I would just say us working on getting our credit and stuff right. Reading, one of my favorite podcasts is Earn Your Leisure. I have my 20-year-old nephew listening to it. He's going through the episodes right now because I am getting him in the mindset and setting him on the trajectory of saving your money, investing, and building wealth at a young age. Him and his girlfriend, like, I have conversations with them about financial literacy. So that's just very important to get the knowledge. A lot of us weren't brought up like that. I wasn't brought up with financial literacy being spewed in my household. I learned these things as I got older, and the classes I took in college and the people I align myself with, you know? So definitely do a circle check, I would say, and watch who you're hanging out with, and make sure that you're hanging out with people that are doing something you're not doing and that you can learn from and that can elevate you.
Awesome. And one more quick question, because we're right on our time. This is for Samaiya. How early do you recommend educating and training children in financial literacy or even short-term property rentals?
I think as early as possible. My parents were into real estate. I grew up seeing, them purchase investment properties and things like that. So it's kind of been in my blood. I knew right out of college that I wanted to be a homeowner. It's not everybody's goal, but it was one of mine. Just to own something. I've always kind of seen how real estate was life-changing and so beneficial, and just in terms of wealth, but also in terms of just having something that you own. That's not a car or clothes or, shoes, things like that. And those are nice too, but I think just being able to say that you're a homeowner and actually see the equity, there's no greater investment than a home. I mean, what I purchased my home for in 2019, it's like $150,000 over what I would have made. Now I have so much equity in the home, and I think there's no other investment that you'll make that much money in just a few years other than real estate. So I see that, that inspires me, that drives me. I see the opportunity to be able to learn from so many different people in the real estate and industry, and just all across just investments. And I think children, as early as they can kind of comprehend and understand just the value of investment and the value of money and things like that, is when you should start teaching and bringing them along the journey. So I don't have kids myself, not yet, but when that time comes, my kids are definitely going to be on my hip, going to the properties and seeing the things that mommy and daddy do. So I'm excited about the opportunity.
Awesome. 3 quick questions. 2 came in. Okay. Gabby, are you preparing Zane?
Boss baby.
Yes, I actually am. I put up a post on my Instagram about this. It's so funny because I was used to condo city living. Everybody knows it. Like, I am anti-suburbia. Well, we just bought a house in the suburbs. And my advice to moms, take your kids out on tours. Like, we had our whole house, we've been having it remodeled. It's brand new construction, but we've been having it done and updated. But we took Zane on tours. So when he went to school, he was bragging to his friends. He was like, I got me a big house. Now I'm not in a condo no more. And the teachers had my mom and grandma cracking up laughing because he was so excited. He does house tours. He shows everybody his playroom, which looks a mess. He shows no other part of the house. And he shows my office. He's like, this is my office as his. But get your kids excited about it so they understand, like, we have our own, But yes, I definitely am going to prepare him and make sure he knows. Well, we are preparing him. But I give tips on my page for moms how to get your kids acclimated to real estate.
Awesome. Awesome. Is land acquisition key, Kisha?
In this market with the housing shortage that we are experiencing, it's very, very important that we start looking at land as a viable option as well. Building new construction, which is what Gabby was speaking to a little earlier, is key to putting you back in the game. It's a lot of competition with purchasing a single family residence, townhome, or anything right now. So if you buy land and build your own, who are you competing with?
Awesome. And outside of a structure, is land acquisition key outside of a structure, Samaiya?
Outside of it, sorry, I don't understand the question. Land acquisition.
Samaiya
Okay,
is an Airbnb. She's going to look at you like you crazy, auntie.
Okay, disregard.
Sorry, I'm not a realtor by trade. That is Gabby.
She's not a realtor.
Okay, but I do have one question for the 3 of you based off of what you all have said. And I think this could work. We can work out something in the future, but would you all consider doing a group project to educate underprivileged or undermined communities within the Atlanta area? Just a thought out there. Would you consider maybe doing host a community center event to just share the information that you have in order to birth the desire within people who would not normally have it.
I would be happy.
We always do it, to be honest.
Mhm.
It's just we always get the same audience, I think, most of the time, because I've gone on live with Samaiya. Kisha and I, we probably would at one point doing something once a month. We even do vision board parties to, create visions for people. So we would love to. Absolutely.
Awesome.
100%.
Awesome.
I always say I'll talk to anybody that'll listen. So if you're willing to learn from my experience, or anyone else you have on this panel, I'd absolutely love to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so we will get back with you about doing something with that. But in the meantime, I want to thank all of you again for being our guest on today, and for all of the information, the knowledge that you shared. You definitely changed my world with it. And as well, I'm sure some others who were listening. Thank you for everyone who contributed questions. Thank you for all of those who stayed in, even though we're just a few minutes over. And I want to thank our owner and CEO, Reverend Penny Rogers, for being our producer on today and keeping us on track with our time, and for being patient with the subject matter, because it's so huge, and we just only had a little bit of time to share it. So thank you, everybody, for everything. I want to thank you for tuning into Church Biz for this winter fall season. Look for us to have a summer break, but we'll be back in August. So tune back in with us here at WCEG Network, and we will want to tell you, take care until then. God bless.